You are live.
Okay, good afternoon. Bringing the zoning administrator hearing to order. It is at 1:30 p.m. on December 12th, 2024. Do we have a determination of notice?
All items on the agenda have been properly noticed.
Thank you. So moving into our regular calendar, I'm going to rearrange the order a bit here, and I'm going to take item 3C and 3F first, and then we'll continue with the regular agenda. So with that, starting with item 3C, this is AP 2024-0025 for the applicant Project Myriad, Inc. And our staff planner, Jamie, please go ahead.
Jamie Henry, planner with Mendocino County, presenting. The applicant proposes to add level 1 manufacturing non-volatile use to an existing permitted cultivation and distribution site to become a microbusiness. The proposed use would take place inside the existing warehouse building currently approved for indoor cultivation and distribution. The applicant states that there will be 4 employees present per shift. However, no additional development is proposed. Rather, the applicant intends to dedicate space inside the already established area that's used for trimming cannabis for packaging, as well as using buckets of water and mesh bags for creating water hash. Mendocino County Code Section 20.243.060 allows for microbusiness in industrial zoning, but requires discretionary review of an administrative permit, which is why we're here today. The subject parcel is approximately 2.91 acres and is located approximately 1.8 miles north of Fort Bragg City Center on the north side of Jane Lane, 0.25 miles from its intersection with State Route 1, located at 32650 Jane Lane, Fort Bragg, APN 069-25133. The project was referred to responsible agencies and no comments of concern were received and no public comments were received. The project is consistent with the intent of the zoning district and general plan. Adequate utilities and other necessary facilities are provided. With the inclusion of conditions of approval, the site is in compliance with the Mendocino Cannabis Cultivation Ordinance. The project is categorically exempt from CEQA per Section 15301 existing facilities. The exemption is justified by the lack of alteration to the existing facility currently being used as a commercial cannabis operation, with the only change to the current use including a dedication of space already utilized for cannabis activities. Staff recommends approval of the project. And this concludes my presentation, and I am available for questions.
Thank you. This seems pretty straightforward, so I don't have any immediate questions. And then I will look either to in the room or online. Is there anyone representing the application here today?
I don't believe so.
Okay, seeing none. Then I will open the public hearing and see if any members of the public wish to provide comment on this item, either in the room or online. And if you're online, you can use the raise hand feature if you'd like to provide comment. And seeing no hands raised, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the zoning administrator. And I will follow staff's recommendation and approve the project per the findings and conditions within the resolution. Thank you. And then, so next we'll hear item 3F, which is AP 2024-0032 for the applicant Clifford Russell. And the staff planner is Jamie again.
Jamie Henry, planner with Mendocino County, presenting again. This item is a application for administrative permit to waive the dwelling unit requirement for commercial cannabis cultivation in the rural residential zoning district. An administrative permit may be applied for and granted with the exception to the dwelling unit requirement of Chapter 10A.17 for parcels in the rural residential lot size 10 acres zoning district, with the additional finding that the applicant can demonstrate that the cultivation site and any associated infrastructure does not preclude the development of the parcel with the residents in the future. It is located 0.6 miles southeast of Calpella Town Center on the east side of Eastside Calpella Road, 0.4 miles south of its intersection with Marina Drive, located at 5701 East Side Calpella Road in Calpella. The APNs are associated are 168040001, 167310014, 167320007, 167320008, 168040002, and 168030007. The project was referred to responsible agencies and no comments of concern were received. One public comment was received. The primary concern expressed in this comment was regarding the exemption of the cultivation site from the permitting process for potential expansion. However, it's important to note that no expansion of the cultivation site is currently proposed. Should the applicant or owner choose to develop a dwelling in the future, there is adequate acreage available to facilitate such development. The project seeks an exemption to the dwelling unit requirement for a large mixed light commercial cannabis cultivation operation located on a parcel categorized as rural residential and as outlined in Chapter 3 development element of the Mendocino County General Plan. While cannabis is not strictly classified as agriculture, it shares many functional similarities with agricultural practices and is recognized as being compatible with them. Furthermore, the land designated for cannabis cultivation can be easily transitioned to support the growth of legitimate agricultural crops in the future, thereby preserving the potential for crop production. Therefore, granting an exception to the dwelling unit requirement for cannabis cultivation on this specific parcel is consistent with the objectives of the rural residential classification. Adequate utilities are available on site for the proposed use. However, if a dwelling unit is planned in the future, it will be necessary to obtain permits and install septic facilities. The Mendocino Cannabis Department commented on the project and indicated that MCD application must be accompanied by a compliance plan. Additionally, the applicant is required to secure a finalized building permit for the ag storage building related to building permit number BV 2024-0008 prior to its utilization. With the inclusion of conditions of approval, the site is in compliance with the Mendocino Cannabis Cultivation Ordinance other than what I mentioned above. The project is exempt from CEQA by Section 15061B3, which is a general rule or common sense exemption. The exemption is warranted due to the absence of direct, indirect, or cumulative impacts associated with permitting an existing site to cultivate cannabis without the necessity of an existing dwelling. Staff recommends approval of this project, and this concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. And so I see we have the agent in the room with us, Javier Rao. Any comments from you?
Nope.
Okay.
I mean, I can answer any questions if anybody has it.
Okay, thank you. And now I'll open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this item? Seeing no hands raised, then I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. So the only thing I had was actually just an edit to the resolution. It just looks like we have the same whereas clause twice. So I'm just going to delete the first one and keep the second one that's in there. And that's the only change that I see that needs to be made. Otherwise, I think I can make the findings and approve this project subject to both the findings and the conditions of approval in the resolution as revised.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving on, or back into our regular calendar. So we'll move back to case 3A. So this is AP 2020-0018 for the applicant Mario Poole, and our staff planner, I believe that we have presenting, is Mark Kleiser.
Yes, thank you. Mark Kleiser, a planner with Mendocino County, presenting on behalf of Elena Hilton from 4Leaf. The project before us today is an administrative permit to expand an existing cultivation site from a type 1B, which is 5,000 square feet of mixed light canopy, to a type 2B, which is 10,000 square feet. The parcel of the project is located approximately 2 miles south of Piercy Town Center, lying on the southwest side of State Highway 271. approximately 0.3 miles south of its intersection with an unnamed private road immediately to the east of the interchange of State Route 271 and US 101. It's addressed at 77701 Highway 271, assessor parcel number 053-19019. The subject parcel is zoned rural residential with a 5-acre minimum. The project was referred to responsible agencies and no comments of concern were received and no public comments have been received on this. Staff did provide a memo to the zoning administrator this afternoon with 2 items on it. The first is a correction to condition of approval number B2, which incorrectly noted that the subject parcel shall not rely on solar as a primary source. This should read generators, and the new condition reads outdoor cultivation of cannabis on the subject parcel shall not rely on generators as a primary source of power. The second item is just a note. The applicant's site plan incorrectly notes certain areas as nursery. These areas will be used for immature plants. The intent is for these areas to be used for immature plants, ultimately to be used in the cultivation area. These plants will not be for sale to the public. The project is consistent with the intent of the zoning district and general plan. Adequate utilities and other necessary facilities are being provided. The Mendocino Cannabis Department commented on the project and noted no active violations and did not object to the request for expansion. With the inclusion of conditions of approval, the site is in compliance with the Mendocino Cannabis Cultivation Ordinance. The project is categorically exempt from CEQA per sections 15300 and 15304, which is new construction of small structures and minor alterations to land. Staff recommends approval of the project, and I am available for questions, as is Elena Hilton from Four Leaf.
Okay, great, thank you. My one question was on the memo, because I had 2 memos for AP 2024-17, so I'm assuming this is the right one and it's for 18.
For 18.
With the conditions that you read, that B, changing B2, the subject line said AP 2024-17.
There's 2.
There are 2, and that
There's 2.
is a previous version of 2017. I apologize.
Oh,
that.
for 20, okay, so, this one.
There is a,
Got it.
Yeah, there's a few.
yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I got the
Okay.
right memo in hand. Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification. So do we have any representatives of the application available online that wish to speak to this? And we'll go ahead and bring you over, and please just state your name for the record.
My name is Stephen Liu, SL Consulting Services, Inc. I'm the agent for the applicant and am available for any questions regarding the application.
Okay, great. Thank you. I don't have any questions quite at this point, so I'll go ahead and open the public hearing, though we have very limited attendees. So is anyone here to speak on this item? No? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the zoning administrator. So thank you, staff, for the corrections to the conditions and the resolution and for pointing me to make sure I had the right memo in my hands. I'm going to go ahead and approve the project and adopt the findings and the conditions within the resolution as amended by the staff memorandum dated December 12th, 2024. So those are amendments to condition B2. I'll just make sure I didn't miss anything in there. Oh, and excuse me, I am going to go back to, and it does look like we have a similar duplicate whereas clause.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and strike the second whereas clause in this resolution. Okay. And with that, the project is approved, subject to those findings and the amended conditions. Thank you. So moving into our next item on the agenda, which is AP 2024-0017 for applicant Mario Poole and our staff planner, Mark Kleiser again.
Thank you. Before I begin, I'd just like to make sure that the zoning administrator has the correct memo for this one.
This one with the BLM,
Yes.
or
Correct.
the
Okay.
email
Thank you.
attached? Yes, okay.
All right, So, Mark Kleiser, planner with Mendocino County, again presenting on behalf of Elena Hilton for Four Leaf. The request here is administrative permit for a 5,000 square foot mixed light cannabis cultivation operation on a parcel that is less than 5 acres in size. Staff learned this morning, however, that the dwelling unit noted on the site plan and the structures list does not actually exist on the site. The project is required to have a dwelling unit per 10A 17040. As such, staff would like to continue this item to a date certain in order to give the applicant time to place the dwelling on the property and get the proper permitting. The date suggested would be the January 9th, 2025 ZA hearing.
Okay.
And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you for that. And it looks like we have also Stephen Liu here representing the application. Do you have any comments, Stephen?
I do not have any further comment. Thank you.
Okay.
Different Steve.
Okay, great. Then I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. And anybody wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, closing the public hearing. So I will go ahead and grant that continuance to January 9th. Since this is being continued to a date certain, the project will not be renoticed.
Good. Thank you.
So that's for the benefit of the public. Okay, now moving on to case 3D, which is AP 2024-0022 for applicant Scott McKinney and the staff planner, also Mark Kleiser.
Thank you. Again, Mark Kleiser, Mendocino County Planning, and presenting on behalf of Elena Hilton from Four Leaf. This project's request is an administrative permit for a 10,000 square foot mixed light cannabis cultivation site within the Forest Land Zoning District. The project is located approximately 7.4 miles northwest of Dos Rios Town Center on the northeast side of Simmerly Road, approximately 2.5 miles east-southeast of its intersection with Iron Creek Road, addressed at 8250 Simmerly Road, Laytonville, assessor parcel number 033-04055. The Mendocino County Code section 20.242.040B4 allows for existing cannabis cultivation sites in forest land districts to continue, but requires discretionary review if the applicant seeks to expand the cultivation site, which is why we're here today. The project was referred to responsible agencies. No comments of concern were received, and no public comments have been received. The project is consistent with the intent of the zoning district and general plan and will not preclude growing, harvesting, or production of timber-related projects. Adequate utilities and other necessary facilities are being provided. The Mendocino Cannabis Department has commented on the project and noted no active violations and did not object to the request for expansion. So with the inclusion of conditions of approval, the site is in compliance with the Mendocino Cannabis Cultivation Ordinance. The project is categorically exempt from CEQA per sections 15300 and 15304, which is new construction of small structures and minor alterations to land. Staff recommends approval of the project. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. I see the same item with the second whereas clause in the resolution, so I'll go ahead and strike that. But I don't have any questions for you at this time. And do we have a representative of the application? Either in room or online? No? Okay. All right, well then I'll go ahead and open the public hearing and see if any members of the public wish to provide comment on this item. And seeing nobody raising their hands or wanting to speak, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to staff. Thank you again, Mark, for the staff report and the detailed conditions. And I have no concerns with the project. Looks like everything's been fleshed out, so I'm going to go ahead and approve the project subject to the findings and conditions contained in the resolution with the revision to the whereas clause.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and moving on to our final item for today's agenda, which is case 3E, AP 2024-0031 with owner applicant $52,000 North Highway 1, Laytonville LLC, and staff planner Mark Kleiser.
Thank you. Mark Kleiser again, planner with Mendocino County, presenting on behalf of Elena Hilton from Four Leaf. The project today is the administrative permit request for a 10,000 square foot mixed light cannabis cultivation operation within the Timberland Production Zoning District. The project is located approximately 8.1 miles northwest of Laytonville Town Center on a private drive off the west side of Highway 101, approximately 2.5 miles south of its intersection with Spy Rock Road. It is addressed at 52000 North Highway 1 in Laytonville. Assessor parcel number 013-51048. And again, the Mendocino County Code, section 20.242.040B4 allows for existing cannabis cultivation sites within this zoning to continue, but does require discretionary review of expansion. The project was referred to responsible agencies, and no comments of concern were received until this morning. Comments were received from the Bureau of Land Management. These comments include concerns about the South Fork Eel River watershed, the salmon population, northern spotted owl, and the marbled merle-elmet. The applicant submitted a biological resources assessment prepared by Natural Investigations Company dated April 25th, 2021. Field surveys in this assessment did not detect either the northern spotted owl or the marbled merle-elmet, but recommended they should be considered in the impact assessment, as should migratory birds. The assessment did note riparian habitat along the channel of 10 Mile Creek. No critical habitat for any federally listed species occurs within the project area or surrounding study area. However, special status habitats such as watercourses and wetlands do occur in the surrounding study area. With this, staff has added several conditions of approval to avoid impact to these riparian areas. These are covered in the memo to the zoning administrator from this morning. If you like, I can read these conditions of approval into the record.
Sure, that would be great.
Yeah,
Okay.
please do.
Condition of approval B8 then reads, a 150-foot buffer shall be maintained from perennial watercourses, water bodies, e.g. lakes and ponds, or springs at all times. Condition of approval number B9, a 100-foot buffer shall be maintained from intermittent watercourses or wetlands at all times. Condition of approval number B10, a 50-foot buffer shall be maintained from ephemeral watercourses at all times. Condition of approval number B11, a formal delineation of jurisdictional waters shall be performed before construction work or ground disturbance is performed within 50 feet of any wetland or channel. And condition of approval B12, the project shall incorporate best management practices, BMPs, to minimize sedimentation, nutrient loading, and other pollutants that could impair water quality to the South Fork Eel River and its tributaries. And one other note in the memo, did correct condition of approval number B2, which incorrectly stated solar. It should be generators, and that new condition number B2 reads, outdoor cultivation of cannabis on the subject parcel shall not rely on generators as a primary source of power. The project is consistent with the intent of the zoning district and general plan. Adequate utilities and other necessary facilities are being provided. Mendocino Cannabis Department commented on the project and noted no active violations and did not object to the request for expansion. With the inclusion of the conditions of approval in the memo and both in the staff report, the site is in compliance with the Mendocino Cannabis Cultivation Ordinance. The project is categorically exempt from CEQA for sections 15303 and 15304, new construction of small structures and minor alterations to land. And staff recommends approval of the project. I'm here for any questions.
Great, thank you. We have representatives of the application in the room.
No,
Any comments?
actually, I'm not a representative of the application. I'm a contiguous property owner.
Okay, then just one moment. We'll get to adjacent property owners in just a minute. You are representing the application,
I am,
correct?
yep.
Okay, yes, please go ahead. Any comments?
I don't have any comments, but I'm here to answer any questions.
And did you see the BLM letter?
I have not, no.
Okay, so at least so you have a copy of that too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Good, I know you'll hear, so now I'm gonna open the public hearing, and then please go ahead and just state your name for the record.
Great, my name is Stevenson Brown, and I own a 250-acre parcel to the south of the group, the ownership group that we're discussing today. My primarily reason for being here was to get some things on the record that I support this application. These neighbors did a lot of cleanup, historical stuff when they came in there, and he seems very open to establishing BMPs, although they're not super knowledgeable about some of those things. I've been representing this watershed for about 30 years now. It has the highest water quality in the whole 10-mile creek, 65 square mile sub-basin. It's a small stream, but it currently has active Chinook salmon spawning in it, and steelhead. Coho have been identified in previous years. And there is a wet crossing that is utilized to get to the property. And the increase in traffic of that wet crossing from rural residents, not even residents, rural recreation and conservation landowners are the other two landowners that use this wet crossing. The increase in traffic is now the limiting factor for salmonid production in the creek because of the fine sediments that are being distributed in the lower reach of the stream. So it dramatically reduces the ability for year-of-the-young salmonids to over summer. And also the stream crossing has become a very sexy spot for salmonids to want to lay their eggs. And that means that as soon as the vehicle drives through, those eggs are going to be lost to the production. So this bridge is very important. It is a requirement, my understanding, from DFW. The owner has pursued the necessary permits, the 401 Army Corps permit and the 1600. He has paid for those. They should be forthcoming. But I see no way, from my perspective, that this person is going to be able to create the economics revenue stream to support installation of a bridge. I've priced out the bridge. I missed a chance about 25 years ago to get one in there with another grant that I wrote. But I'm here today to say that I am going to pursue grant money to participate in installation of this bridge in the most expeditious way possible. I currently am in the design and development phase of doing a large in-stream habitat improvement project in a little over a mile of the anadromy of the stream. So I would love to work with anyone that is supporting and promoting his permit application, because I feel like there's a responsibility from agency to make sure that if they're saying you gotta have this and you know the economics aren't gonna let this person get it done right away, then they're sort of setting themselves up for failure. And as is very common in this industry, I'm concerned that 3 years from now, when he realizes he's not gonna come up with 250 grand to put a bridge in, he's gonna close up shop and leave whatever legacy is left at that point. Although, again, I do support them and I've had a good interaction with these folks, but I just kind of know how things tend to go.
Yeah. Mhm.
So.
Well, thank you for your comments. Thanks for being here today. Sorry you had to wait for the very last item to
It's
get to
not-
provide
not
your
a problem at all.
comments.
I'm too much of a dinosaur to try to get on.
That's okay. Hey, we like having people in person. It doesn't happen all the time.
No.
So, do you have any comments you want to add back on that about sort of where they're at, the applicants are at with the permitting for the bridge or anything?
Yeah, sure. They're working with Timberland Resources out of
Yeah,
Arcata.
I spoke with them, yeah.
Yeah, and Daniel Harrington at CDFW. They've had 3 inspections out there in the last 3 years from
Yeah.
Fish and Game, and so they're trying to. So they have a location where they're going to put the bridge in.
Well, I mean, they have a proposed location, but they're gonna have to get an easement, they're gonna have to, because that's not his land.
Yeah.
And it's not where the current crossing is, so there's, you know, I haven't seen the engineering designs from the timber consultants, but there's a lot of moving parts here.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, and you know that it sounds like you know the land pretty well. And you know there's 3 other neighbors that have to cross through that crossing as well.
Well, there's actually only 2, and one of them is the owner of the land where the proposed bridge would be, and she really has no incentive to need to cross with any frequency. As do the other owners, they use it for rural summer camping, and they got a little cabin out there. So there's no permanent residence.
Right.
And historically, that's kind of the problem, is we've gone from people driving across the creek once or twice a month, or parking their car and walking, as opposed to now we have people moving back and forth, and the change in the gravel and the macroinvertebrate life in the lower end of the stream is dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
I now have like almost no Year the Young staying below that crossing. They all have to go above it in order to get food and nutrition out of the gravel.
Uh-huh.
And it's really important, and I support these people 100%.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be out trying to get money for this, and getting a bridge is a little tricky,
Yeah.
but the money's there. I know of one that was funded this last summer in a stream west of Lakeville. I don't mean to elaborate and go on and on about this, but it's just something I wanna really be in contact with. I'll get a hold of Daniel, and I'll start trying to get people to realize that when I submit this application, I hope to get support from the folks that are currently supporting these folks, trying to be good stewards of their land and have a viable business. You know.
Right. And I think they've already applied for the grant.
I don't, well, we have a.
Are you talking to Evan up there?
I'm not talking, oh, you mean in Timberland?
Yeah.
He didn't say anything about applying for a grant, and he didn't suggest that their engineering was going to be the engineering that would be required to actually do the installation. I think it was just for the permits.
Mm-hmm.
But I've only talked to him twice. He said he would have stuff completed in January, so I was waiting till that.
Right.
And I was going to partner up with the Eel River Watershed Improvement Group,
Yeah.
who has a tight line to funding, who suggested that, that this bridge was viable and actually a high priority.
Yeah.
And if there needs to be neighborhood buy-in from these things, then we can try to get together and see what kind of money they have to contribute as well.
Right.
But
Right.
currently, I feel like it's kind of a little bit of a chicken or an egg on a commercial vendor, a commercial operator on a private road, and the agencies that approve a permit for it have to bear a responsibility over time.
Right.
To keep trying to move this thing forward.
Right. Well, their intention is to fully have that bridge constructed within the next, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And trying to achieve that, they're trying to go through that Fish and Game grant, because that's what Daniel has, gave them an opportunity to apply for, because they want to get it as well, and
Okay.
they're trying to work with everybody.
Yeah, then Gabe, who I'm speaking with,
Yeah.
Gabriel, then he should basically talk to me, because I can write that grant, and I can do it with the proper flowery language and all the details that they need. And I don't know if he's paying the timber resource people to.
So are you the one just upstream that has the bridge
Yeah,
that he tried to go across?
yeah, and he'd have to go all the way up the mountain.
Yeah.
He'd have to go down, he'd have
Okay.
to
I know
build-
who you are.
He'd
Then.
have to
Yeah.
build a road, he'd have to do a bunch of crazy things that were just not even remotely realistic.
Yeah.
He wasn't accounting for the West Fork of Peterson. It doesn't show it as a blue line stream, but it has about
It
800.
forks right in there.
Yeah, it has about 800 linear feet of anadromy.
Uh huh.
So again, we're getting out into
Yeah.
the weeds.
Well, I'm
I
glad it
apologize.
seems like this is a good connection that you two have made here at least.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's why I came
yeah.
in person, because I saw Elena's name, and
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that people talk to me, because I am the credible advocate for this watershed. I have received multiple DFW grants back in the 90s to do a road survey and take out log landings and reduce sediment in the stream. So it's really a refugia stream. It's small, but it's like the best thing in the whole system right now.
If you can get a grant from the state of California, you can certainly use Zoom.
Yeah, I can. And
Trust me.
I do it frequently, and it annoys me. But I was just afraid that somehow I would have a Zoom glitch.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I
I
know.
wouldn't get my statement
Yeah.
on the record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would love to exchange, any necessary information with you, and
Mhm.
I'd love for anybody to contact me, because I have Isaac Micus ready to write this grant.
Well, that's
for the bridge.
great.
Write the grant for the bridge, for my in-stream project that I want to do, and also for a smaller cleanup on another property with funds that are out there too. So,
Well, great.
I'm just the environmental representative and concerned
Yeah, cool.
neighbor, and that's what I do. We have a $6 million grant ongoing in 10 Mile Creek right now for forest health. enhancement and fire hazard fuel reduction. And all 5 of the other neighbors in that watershed are participants in that particular grant.
Yeah.
And Gabe's kind of jealous, he wants to get on board, so,
Yeah.
As he should.
I do too. He told me about that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, this is a good connection.
And I
so thank
appreciate-
you for coming
And I
to.
appreciate your guys' patience to
Yeah.
allow me this, because this
Yeah.
is why I came.
Yeah, well, good. Okay, well,
I'm
thank
much better in
you.
person than I am like trying to, electronica everything.
I understand. Well, thank you. And I'm going to just do a call, although I recognize the name online. And so any other members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, then I'll go ahead and close the public hearing
Here's my
portion.
card.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And
I'll shoot you a text when I walk up.
Perfect.
and so thank you for coming down and waiting through the hearing to
Yeah, yeah.
go through this
No,
process.
I find it interesting. I mean, it's
Yeah.
always educational just to kind of sit in the room a little bit and
Yeah.
see how this process actually
Well,
works.
and I'll be just a couple seconds here. So I'm going to go ahead and approve the project, striking that same whereas clause, the
Okay.
second whereas clause, subject to the amended conditions from the from the memorandum from staff dated December 12th, 2024. So that's revisions to condition B2 and the addition of conditions B8 through B12. And we'll provide you a copy of that too, so.
Thank you.
So with that, the project is approved. So let me just finish up my last two, or do you have a question about,
Was this mine?
you can take that.
Thank you.
Yes, okay. Any matters from staff today?
No matters from staff.
Thank you. Any matters from the public? One of you? Anything? No? Nothing from what we already heard? Then I'll adjourn the meeting at 2:06 p.m. Thank you all for being here.
Excellent. Thank you.